In a small workshop in 16th-century Flanders, surrounded by the smell of ink, parchment, and candle smoke, a man leaned over a sheet of vellum that covered his entire desk. His hand moved carefully, the quill's tip gliding in smooth arcs, as if it already knew the shape of the world it was about to reveal. That man was Gerardus Mercator, a craftsman, a scholar, and a dreamer who never set sail on the oceans he mapped, yet charted them more accurately than anyone before him. He was the man who, in his own quiet way, discovered the world twice. The century Mercator was born into was both thrilling and terrifying. Europe was gripped by curiosity and conflict. Ships were crossing uncharted waters, returning with rumors of golden kingdoms, lands filled with strange beasts, and seas so wide they seemed infinite. But while explorers were conquering oceans, the world on paper remained a chaos of shapes and guesses. Maps of that era looked more like fantasies than guides, coastlines bent at impossible angles, continents misplaced, the size of Africa or Asia wildly wrong. The world had expanded beyond imagination, yet no one could make sense of it. Mercator would become the man to bring order to that confusion. He was born in 1512 in a small town called Rupelmonde. His real name was Gerard de Kramer, which in his native language meant the merchant. Later he would Latinize it, as was the custom among scholars, and call himself Gerardus Mercator. He came from a family of modest means, but from a young age he displayed a hunger that books alone could not satisfy. He wanted to understand how the heavens above could guide the hands of men on earth. When he was old enough, he studied at the University of Leuven, one of Europe's leading centers of learning. There he met Gemma Frisius, a brilliant mathematician, astronomer, and instrument maker. Under Frisius's guidance, Mercator learned the art of scientific precision, how to combine mathematics, astronomy, and geometry to describe the planet itself. At that time, mapmaking was not science but art mixed with superstition. Many maps still carried drawings of dragons or warnings like, "Here be monsters." Mercator began to believe that maps could be more than decoration. They could be tools, accurate, consistent, and timeless. He started crafting globes and scientific instruments, each one a little better than the last. His precision soon earned him fame across Europe. Scholars sought his maps, kings wanted his globes, and navigators trusted his lines more than the stars. Yet his rise was not without peril. Europe was in turmoil. The Protestant Reformation had set the continent on fire, and suspicion followed every thinker who questioned the old order. In 1544, Mercator was arrested for heresy. His crime was curiosity. Authorities believed that anyone studying the heavens too deeply must be dabbling in forbidden ideas. He spent months in a dark cell, fearing execution. But friends and scholars came to his defense, and eventually he was released. Those months in prison changed him. When he emerged, he was quieter, more thoughtful, but even more determined. He realized how fragile truth was and how easily it could be distorted. To him, making a perfect map became a kind of moral mission. He wanted to show the world as it truly was. Years later, in 1569, Mercator published what would become one of the most revolutionary documents in human history, the Mercator Projection. At first glance, it was just another world map, but hidden within its grid lines was genius. Mercator had solved one of geography's oldest problems: how to represent the round Earth on a flat surface without distorting directions. His projection preserved angles, meaning that a straight line drawn on his map could guide a ship's compass across oceans with unmatched accuracy. For sailors, it was like magic. For centuries, no one had managed to translate the curved reality of the Earth into a navigable chart. Mercator did it with mathematics and imagination. But the Mercator projection came with a strange consequence. To preserve direction, it had to stretch the size of regions near the poles. Greenland looked as big as Africa, though it was much smaller. At the time, few noticed. For navigators, direction mattered more than size. Yet centuries later, this distortion would spark debates about how maps influence perception, how they shape not just geography, but politics, power, and the way we see our place in the world. In that sense, Mercator's map didn't just chart the planet, it reshaped humanity's mental picture of it. Even as his fame spread, Mercator remained humble. He saw himself not as an inventor, but as a servant of truth. He wrote that maps were like mirrors. They should reflect reality faithfully, not flatter it. In his later years, he embarked on even a greater project, to create a complete collection of maps he called the Atlas, named after the mythical Titan who carried the heavens on his shoulders. The word Atlas would soon become the universal term for a collection of maps. He never finished it in his lifetime, but his vision inspired generations of cartographers to continue his work. Behind the image of the calm scholar was a man of deep faith and emotion. He believed that understanding the world was a sacred duty, that by measuring creation, one could come closer to its creator. Every map he drew was an act of devotion, every line a prayer. To him, the earth was not chaos, it was harmony waiting to be revealed. When he died in 1594, at the age of 82, he left behind not just maps, but a way of thinking that transformed exploration itself. What made Mercator truly remarkable is that he expanded humanity's vision without ever leaving his study. He discovered the world not by sailing its oceans, but by mapping them. His curiosity was his compass, and his imagination was his ship. Through numbers and lines, he gave the world order, and through courage, he gave it meaning. He never saw the southern seas, yet every sailor who crossed them carried a part of his mind in their hands. Over the centuries, his projection became the foundation of navigation, used by explorers, traders, and even modern GPS systems. It guided the rise of empires, the spread of science, and the dream of global connection. And yet, as we gaze at his maps today, we are reminded that every tool of discovery carries both truth and illusion. The same grid that helps ships find their way also shaped how we rank nations by size and importance. In a way, Mercator discovered not one world, but two: the physical world of seas and continents, and the psychological world of perspective and power. Both continued to shape us. Even now, when satellites circle the Earth and digital maps fit in our pockets, the spirit of Mercator's quest endures. Each time we zoom in or out on a digital globe, we repeat his dream, the dream of bringing a limitless planet into human understanding. He lived in a time when maps were still miracles, when knowledge was dangerous, and when drawing a coastline could be as bold as crossing it. He proved that discovery is not only for those who travel far, but also for those who dare to see differently. Mercator taught the world that imagination and precision are not enemies, but partners. His lines turned chaos into clarity, and his projection turned the unknown into the navigable. In every corner of the world, wherever a map hangs on a wall or a sailor charts a course, his invisible hand is still there, steady, guiding, and patient. He was more than a cartographer. He was a bridge between science and spirit, between the known and the possible. In a lifetime of ink and courage, he discovered the world, and then, with his maps, he helped the rest of humanity discover it too.